Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Man, we're gonna do the top 3 baits for the month of March. You guys like, comment, subscribe. I'm gonna mail these things to you. You're gonna like these baits. These things will catch fish. I can attest to it personally through my career. These are some of the best fish catching baits in the month of March. You guys are gonna wanna check this out. All right, with that said, man, it was tough to get my first one. I just struggled between 2 of them, 3 of them. They're all good baits. And with that said, these aren't the only 3 baits in March. You know, I realize the country's different from north to south and east to west, but these are still 3 baits that are going to work in your part of the country when it gets to be March. And when I think of water temperatures in March, I think that water's starting to warm up. I've got, in the start of March, you know, I've got waters in the upper 50s. You know, heck, by the end of March, I could have water in the upper 60s. Yeah, it's definitely possible. Mid 60s, you know, it just depends on where you live. You know, heck, down in South Texas, down in you know, all across the coast and down into Florida, fish have spawned or already spawned. So, you know, you guys could be a little bit further ahead, but these baits are gonna work for you guys down there too, I promise you. So, you know, I think of March as a pre-spawn, fish getting ready to spawn. There'll be fish spawning right here in Oklahoma on the full moon in March. It happens a lot, you know, as with all across the country, in the middle section of the country and to the south. So, narrowing it down to the #1 bait, I struggled. It has to be a stick worm, a weightless worm. This is a Berkley General. You know, some people call it a Cinco. It's one of the first ones to come along. Just an awesome fish catching bait that you can throw out there, let it sink to the bottom, and it does all the work for you. It's just man, it just catches more and bigger fish than anything else out there. Now I've got this one rigged, Texas rig. I'd throw it no weight. I'd throw this on 14-pound test, and I just let it sink. It just sinks, and as it's sinking, this thing's just wobbling back and forth. And it's gonna be a bait that I make a presentation to, holes in grass, stumps, out off the ends of laydowns, just cover, basically cover. You know, that's why I've got it rigged like that. You know, with that Texas rig, I just barely, you know, put the tip of it in, you know, so when I rig that, I'm gonna come all the way through, and then I just cover the hook point, just barely, just like that. So that's how I'd have it rigged one way. The other way that you could rig this is wacky style. Get a different hook, rig it right through the middle, wacky style, like a 1/0 hook. That's when I'm gonna rig it, when I'm throwing it around rocks or maybe around docks, something more open water. Then third way that I would rig it would be to add a weight. I am going to throw it like a Texas rig worm when the water's dingy. You know, this way right here, rigged this way, and the wacky style is when the water's clean. You know, if you've got 18 inches of visibility or more, that's the way I rig it this way. I'm gonna Texas rig it when I have less than 18 inches of water, when the water's dingy. Those are gonna be the ways, you know, with a 3/16, a 1/4 ounce weight, you know, you flip it out there next to that stump, it goes to the bottom, then this tail just slowly goes down, it lays down, and that's what triggers those bites. So keep that in mind. The dingier the water, Texas rig it. The cleaner the water, you want to wacky rig it or weightless. I'm gonna have it Texas rigged like this in more cover, you know, those kinds of things, wacky rigged in open water. I've got 3 different colors, 3 different sizes here. I've got green pumpkin watermelon is gonna be my clear water bait. This is in the Maxin. I love this Maxin, it's really awesome stuff. I've got a package of 5/0 hooks that's gonna go with that. That's exactly how, that's a 6/0, sorry, I picked up the wrong one. 5/0 hooks, that's gonna go with that. That's gonna be a rig just like that. That's a clean water setup right here. This one right here, I got June bug. Same thing, I've got another package of 5/0 hooks that's gonna go with that. This is gonna be a dirtier water setup. You know, June bug, black and blue would be another setup for that dirtier water. That's gonna be really good in that instance. And then last, I've got a 6-inch version. You know, Skeet just won that big tournament down in Okeechobee throwing the 6-inch Berkley General. So I've got that on a 6/0 hook. This is gonna be more in areas you got bigger fish, yeah, that's basically, I'm gonna throw that when I want a bigger profile in and around bigger fish. When rigging your weightless worm, the General, you know, I like to find the seam in the worm. You know, when those worms are built, you know, the mold closes, there's a seam, you know, let's say on the north side, and there's a seam on the south side, the top side, the bottom side. So when I go to put my hook point in, I go right in the very center of the worm, I go to the bend, and then I find that seam in that worm, make sure everything's straight, and then I come out right on that seam, okay? So now when I pull it up and I turn it around, when I go back through that worm, I go right through that seam again, and I'm gonna set that worm right to the side. I can see that I need to go right there. So when I go right through that seam, out from the bottom through the top, and then that worm is completely straight when I go to rig it. It just works really well. It went a little fat. Let me come back in. That's such an important deal to me, to have everything straight. So now my worm is straight this away and that away when I go to rig that thing, and it'll work really, really well. So that is bait number one right there. Let me just refresh. I'm gonna throw that like on a 7.3 heavy action rod when I'm flipping it, 17 or 20 pound test. I'm gonna throw it on that same rod with 14 pound test if I'm rigging it weightless. If you're rigging it wacky style, you can actually put that thing on a spinning rod. So keep those things in mind when you go to outfit your rod and reel with that. Fluorocarbon line, no monofilament, no braid, fluorocarbon line. All right, moving on. Man, this bait right here has been super good to me, a vibrating jig. You know, I've got 3 different ones right here. I use bluegill crawdad type colors in March. You know, these are the colors that I use. I'm not saying that whites and chartreuses do not work. Just for me, I'm gonna choose these first. You know, I've got a black and blue one right here with a 4.5 inch The Deal. It's called The Deal, this trailer. It's a Berkley trailer, really a good trailer. I like the big one when I need to slow my bait down. Early in March, when things are cold, I'm gonna use that bigger trailer to help give that bait buoyancy, to help slow it down, to make that bait go a little slower through the water. Now, I've got a 3.5 inch deal on this vibrating jig, and that's when things start to heat up, when I can reel it a little faster. It has less resistance coming through the water. Works really, really well. Let me show you just how I rigged that really quick. I got one of these here that is not open. I think it's that one. It goes with this one. So, you know, that's brand new bait, comes out of the package. I'm gonna trim that skirt up just a little bit when I'm putting that 3.5 inch. I just kind of like to trim the sides up just a little bit, kind of give it a little shape, you know, just kind of like a haircut. It just kind of tapers back down towards the trailer. This has got a really good keeper system on it. I like to take those keepers, you'll see right there, and bend them in. So when I bend those keepers in, it doesn't tear my plastic up near as bad when I put it on there. So now that I've bent those in, that one needs bent in just a little bit more. It still keeps the plastic on there just as good, but your plastic will last a lot longer. So then this is a vertical. You rig this vertical. You know, you can see it's got a belly shape to it. So just bring it in right there. Keep everything straight. About halfway up that bend. Poke it out. And then right here, you can put a little drop of super glue right here on this shank when you go to put it up there, and that'll stay. Also, it just helps that trailer keep it. You can notice everything's straight. That's what separates this trailer apart from others. It's vertical. You can see that those things are vertical and they oscillate against each other. So they're going like this. It's just a really cool profile, good action in the water. But I throw half ounce. All 3 of these are half ounce. I like half ounce the best. I will adjust the size of the trailer depending if I need to keep it up higher in the water or slow it down a little bit. So that is the vibrating jig. I'm gonna throw that on 20-pound fluorocarbon, a 7-foot medium heavy rod, and a 6/8-to-1 gear ratio reel. Yeah, and it's gonna be a bait that you're gonna have tied on all of March, anywhere across the country. It doesn't just have to be grass. It can be all lakes. Yeah, it just catches them. It just catches them. It catches them. Three of you guys are gonna win that right there. So we're gonna put that bait and that bait and that bait right there. Be sure you leave a comment and we'll mail those out. Okay, and there's the trailers. I'm gonna have each trailer to go with those. Have you guys decked out and ready to go. Okay, last. I struggled with the bait last. You know, there's so many to choose from. March things really start to, you know, get diverse across the country, really start to change. There's, you know, heck, some of those baits in February, some of those baits in January are still working in March. But as March warms up and fish start to spawn, they get really protective around their beds. And there's no better bait than a grass pig. You know, this thing right here, you know, it's called a grass pig because, you know, I guess a lot of people think they need to throw it around grass, but it's also a good open water bait. It's basically just a swim bait. I rig it with a belly weighted hook, and you can see I got the hook through there, and I've just got the point just barely stuck in there, if any at all. I don't really need to bury that. You know, it's really a weedless bait coming through the water. Works really, really well. It's a bait that I'm gonna throw just wherever I think fish are spawning. Up shallow, you know, 1 to 4 or 5 feet. It's gonna be a bait that I'm gonna throw in clearer water. It's not a muddy water bait. You know, if it's super muddy, I'm gonna go to a spinner bait or I'm gonna go to that vibrating jig. This is gonna be a clear water bait. This is a green pumpkin watermelon is one of the colors I've got right here. Just a great bluegill imitator. This is gonna be for the cleanest water application that I might have. Now, if I've got a little bit dirtier water, I've got the color California. And you'll notice in it, it's just got red sparkles in it. It's just a little bit better in dirtier water. And then I've got to have a shad color. It's just also another bait that I'll throw, just natural shad, you know, in cleaner water. I've got these rigged on 5/0 fusion hooks, just a belly weighted swim bait hook. It's got a little spring lock right there. 5/0, 1/4 ounce weight. It's a Teflon coated hook. I just try to make sure that I get it right in the middle when I go to put that on there. Keep everything straight. I do not go all the way up on it. And I look at the top and I make sure that seam at the very top of that is in line with my hook eye. I want everything to be super straight. That is one mistake that you can make, is just not have it all straight. Then I just poke it through, set it up just like that. The one thing I like about a grass pig, it's a little bit stiffer, so it has more thump to it. You know, none of this is real pliable. This whole part of it's real stiff, which makes the tail super thump really good, which I like, and you can just feel it when you're reeling it in. I'm gonna throw this on 17 to 20 pound fluorocarbon, sometimes braid, you know, if I'm in some really heavy grass. But you know, like a 7.6 medium heavy rod will work really well. A 7.3 heavy rod, the same rod that we had on that Berkley General that we had over there. But yeah, that's the Berkley Grass Pig. 3 colors. I got a set of hooks to go with everybody on those. So there it is, guys. Those are 3 baits that, you know, as March gets going, these are gonna be baits that you're gonna wanna have tied on. I'm gonna give all these away. So if you like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, you know, I'm gonna go down through there randomly, mail these to you guys. I enjoy doing that. I hope it helps you. Hope helps you catch your next big fish, personal best. I hope it just helps put some more fish in the boat. And by no means are these the only 3 baits. You know, if you've got really muddy water, you know, spinner bait's still gonna be working. You know, if you got really cold water, that jerk bait from that February video is gonna be working. Or, you know, that frit side from that February video, or some of that stuff from those other videos could still be working in your part of the country. So be sure you go back and check out those previous videos. But like, comment, subscribe. I'm gonna mail this stuff out to you. I appreciate you guys following along, and we'll see you next week.